All right, good afternoon. We will get started. We are calling this a briefing, and I think on the screen it'll be the same. But I am here today to take any testimony, evidence, and other things with regard to the ordinance that was recently passed. It is Ordinance 129-2025, and it has regard to and with Ordinance 37-2024. Recently, as in Tuesday of last week, the council adopted 129-2025 and repealed 37-2024. And with that, it affects at least one incumbent council person. The vote was 4-3. I've considered this a very important issue. It is an issue that is of not only interest to the city as a whole, but more specifically to people that live in the districts affected. I think there has been 4 public hearings on this total. There were 2 back for the 37-2024. There were 2 for 129-2025, theoretically, if you count right after the census in doing the first one, that the 37-2024 change, that I guess you would have to say that there were 6. So there's been 6 public hearings. The 2 that I witnessed and saw in detail about while being mayor only pertained to 37-2024 and recently 129-2025. So the way I approach this is with some degree of affinity, interest, and love about this particular subject. I care a lot about voting rights. I have had a career involved in numerous cases with voting rights issues. It is something near and dear to me. In the legislature, I was, as a staff person, worked with some people who were really big into districting and redistricting, one being Glenn Kepp, who went on to become the Senate's in charge of the Senate. So you have like the clerk of the House in the Senate. That person takes care of their business like Donna does for us here. And Glenn was a pretty well-known redistricting guy for many, many decades. And so the Supreme Court of the United States today is really looking hard at lots of changes in this. Many of you in the room may not care about it. Some of you may care a lot about it. But I can tell you that as a state of flux in this nation, the application of civil rights, voting rights, the acts that pertain to both of those terms have seen a lot of change. It is a very dynamic part of constitutional law. I think that there's not a whole lot of things that could be said to be more important in terms of the preservation of your rights. I've always believed that the First Amendment that protects speech is one of the critical protections of your ability to be an American and do things. And the other one that's got to be right next to it is the right to vote, because it is through that right, that franchise, if you will, that all other rights ultimately have some decision-making about them. Luckily, in a constitutional system, legislative bodies, whether they're at the local level or state level or even Congress, theoretically cannot pass laws that are unconstitutional. They do it every day, but they get struck down, hopefully, when the court is on its game doing right. The Constitution is, unlike a statute, it is our bedrock. It is the organic law. It is the law by which all other rights are ordered, and it comes from the people. That's why it's called organic, because it's not given by the legislature. It's given by you. And so with that preface, let me say how I look at an issue like this, which I think is extremely critical. If you look at the notice, it sort of spells it out for you, the order of that criticality. So the first thing that I would ask is, are citizens denied the right to vote? Are any things about a statute or an ordinance enabling any impermissible violation of the Equal Protection Clause? The Equal Protection Clause is critical to us in this country and how we order our affairs in business. It generally would make a statement that when persons are similarly situated, on equal footing, similarly situated, with similar circumstances facing them, are they being treated the same? Typically, our courts, until very recently, again, it's in flux, have had 3 tests for that. One is strict scrutiny, one is intermediate scrutiny, and one is a very deferential test, some people call rational basis. So the rational basis test tends to say that laws are presumed constitutional if they fall in the general area of police power of states or localities. The intermediate scrutiny was invented to say, well, there are certain things that are more serious, more important, and so laws that affect those things with similarly situated people, if you're going to treat them differently, you got to really be careful and make that relationship substantially related to something that's important. And the last one that we've all probably heard of at some point in our life is strict scrutiny. And that one says, if you're affecting fundamental rights, fundamental things about how we structure our government, unless it's strictly, we're going to strictly look at it as a court, and we're going to strike it down if you're treating people differently if they fall in those classes of protection, protected classes. The right to travel is a fundamental right. The right to vote is fundamental. So when we look at these things, we have to look at them with that level of scrutiny. I'm not telling you all that to try to bore you to death. I'm telling you all that because that was the order of things for many decades now. And there are decisions that are happening in D.C. right now in front of the court that are striking out a lot of that and just saying that legislative bodies can politically make any decision they want without regard to a lot of things that we all grew up and understood to be the rules of the game. With that said, here are my personal rules of the game. If people are being denied the right to vote, where they're not getting one person, one vote, where things are not equally spread out as well as you can or within the statutory or constitutional limits. And if people are being carved out based on racial or discriminatory reasons, that's going to be a strong feeling that I have personally that that's not okay. And so if I get through those 2 tests and one of them fails, I don't really have to go to some of the other ones, and I think it's in that order of importance. Those are both related. For those of you who care, since everybody tends to get on their chat and go look at things, Reynolds v. Sims and Baker v. Carr, C-A-R-R, are the 2 oldest sort of leading cases with this notion of the one person, one vote. And so that idea is pretty basic. If you have a state and you have a population, you need to carve up the districts equally. Otherwise, one representative would have an advantage because he or she would have more people in his or her district than another, which could create some unfairnesses. The real art is then how do you draw those districts? So you have to meet this one person, one vote, and then you have to draw the districts in a way where that equality is there, but somehow protect at the state level political jurisdictional lines. So, parishes, those kind of things. Splitting a city. Some urban centers you may find easier to split than others. Is that fair? Those are all questions. At the local level, the real statutory push is don't split up precincts. That precinct is that basic unit at the local level that we are at least commanded to consider. And in fact, if you do a split precinct, you have to give a reason, and they're going to ask you about it, Trey, right? They're going to want to know if you split a precinct, why, et cetera. So it's not favored. It doesn't mean you can never do it. It means that is an unfavored activity for a reason. For a reason, because that's the one. So if your precinct is you go to Huddle School or you go to any place that any of you would know, and you're not going there anymore, or you live on one side of the street, someone else lives on the other, one goes here, one goes there, that's a split precinct situation. Those can be, bothersome to people. The other part that's important is that we protect communities of interest. communities of interest. So if you get past that it's constitutional, that it wasn't racial disparity or discrimination, that one person, one vote is in place, you have to then look at districts, or should, on this. Are they contiguous? Do they touch? Everyone knows the famous gerrymander word because it kind of was related to salamander, and that's the etymology of the word, and jerry, and so it looked like a big lizard, this district drawn all those years ago. We see a fight about that now with Congressman Fields' district. There are all these things happening today, and lo and behold, right here locally, Doc, we're seeing a similar battle go on. So I'll summarize that to make it easy. If there's not a violation of one person, one vote, because if there is, you don't, to me, I can't speak for everybody, you don't go to the next thing. If that's violated, that's no good. No ordinance that violates that is any good. If you violate any sort of what was the strength of the Voting Rights Act, or what still remains, that's also going to be a real problem, I hope, for people. If neither of those are at issue, then you really have to focus hard on what would be called the communities of interest in preserving districts, and that can go either way. So in this case, there are arguments that are made on both sides, and so ultimately you have to decide. If it's just a purely political question, if you strip away those bigger things that we've heard a testimony about in here, if you want to call it testimony, comments, whatever, then it's a political question. Then what should happen if it's solely a political question? Is the deference to the legislative body? And I think the answer to that is generally yes. The deference should go to the legislative body. So that's the weighing process. Let me start by saying there were a lot of comments made about voting rights violations, et cetera, over the course of this time. And I think in the last, maybe it wasn't at the point of the public hearing, perhaps we were already at the vote on the actual instrument, on the ordinance. I think there were some comments, I know that. We were on the actual instrument. There was an exchange between the city attorney and a citizen about the Voting Rights Act. So this is going to be an important part of this analysis. I have no way to start this except to ask for those comments, and I have it in order. Outlining acceptance of or answers to council questions about ordinances 129-2025, 37-2024, their distinctive features, and the controversies relative to whether one or another would deny citizens the right to vote, dilute citizens' voting rights power, or impinge on that right to vote because of an improper gerrymander, racial discrimination, or other protected class discrimination in the drawing of districts. That's why I gave you that big warm-up. There they are in order. Next, deny access to the ballot by drawing districts intentionally to make voting more difficult. That's a very rare one in today's time, not applicable to us, but it's out there. And the next one is fail to consider cultural and other common ties for districts to create compactness and contiguity, that they touch each other and are compact and make sense instead of spread out or little islands around where you're just trying to capture one person or another. And how do you do that last one? You look at you look at whether they're contiguous, so are all parts of a district connected to each other geographically? You look at compactness, are they within a consolidated area with a regular shape, hence salamander, gerrymander? And you look at preservation of precincts. Do the districts minimize or zero out the splitting of precincts? And you look at preservation of communities of interest. The most important thing, if you don't have a Voting Rights Act violation or a one person, one vote violation, equal protection violation, are you preserving the communities of interest that have historically and long enjoyed some neighborhood tie, something that made them a street or whatever? Those are all important. So one of the ideas that's expressed in all this is to make sure that you consider all of these things when you redistrict, and that people have the right to weigh in on that. I realize that some folks are willing to come to council meetings and testify and hear or comment, if you will. Most citizens, I hate to tell you, council members, are not too keen on coming here, being on TV and commenting. It doesn't mean that they don't have opinions. It certainly is also the case that those opinions can be most expressed at the ballot box. And you see those opinions expressed where people might not come here. I have long been of the opinion that just because someone comes in this room and vociferously promotes their opinion or position, which is fine, which is what the room is for, you still have to look at everything to make a decision. Sometimes think the council can be, well, we've often teased that the last person who may talk may have the best point because of primacy or recency, and those are all part of it. I approach this question unlike others, Mr. Fowler, where that deference may be just outright, this isn't a decision except for the council. This is about people. We don't let candidates pick voters. Voters pick whom they want to both be their candidate and ultimately elect them. That's it. That's the most essential thing you have to remember about this democracy is that. And if you get into the any other way than that, then we're not the American democracy, we're something else. So, with that said, I'm going to open the floor first to council questions about the features of both these ordinances, and we'll try to ensure that I marshal for those questions the right people. I have Mr. Gist here, who is the designated council attorney for council affairs, and who is also the designee in our city that is most closely associated with redistricting and giving advice to the council and administration, but to the council, because they do the redistricting. We don't. That may be a perception out in the community. Not true. We don't weigh in on it. The mayor's office doesn't do that. It's not part of the charter, and it's not part of what we do. But right now, there were two pieces of litigation on this same ordinance situation. A federal suit was filed that included a Voting Rights Act claim, and a state suit is still pending that does not include a Voting Rights Act claim, but includes a charter claim that the charter only allows this, I guess, Trey, one time after the census within a certain time period redistricting, and that anything beyond that is one too many. Is that sum it up?
That sums that.
Okay. So let's start with some easy ones to get through what are the hardest questions. Is there currently a federal case, to your knowledge, that is dealing with a Voting Rights Act claim?
For the city of Alexandria?
Against the city of Alexandria, yes.
To my knowledge, there is not.
There was one filed. Mr. Larverdane was the lawyer, Malcolm Larverdane on the council, correct?
Correct.
And
It's been dismissed.
it's been dismissed. And I think Mr. Larverdane alluded to that the other day, or it said it in between lines. Maybe it didn't get picked up or caught, but it is my understanding the Voting Rights Act claim has been dismissed. Is that right? I'm relying on you. I don't know. Does anybody else understand that to be the case?
I thought I heard him say that.
Okay. I will be putting in the record the answer to that. So there will be a dismissal. If there is one, I will file that with the council because I think that is extremely important. There were Voting Rights Act claims, but the one claim where you have a courtroom where you can deal with it was dismissed. In the state claim, there is not a voting rights claim. That's my understanding, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm going to open the floor right now for anybody to advance that there's a voting rights claim involved in the situation between these two ordinances. If there is, that's extremely important. And I personally wouldn't be a part of in any way that I can or have an effect on it, tolerating a violation of that. So I heard it said, but I didn't hear any facts about it. I just heard this violates the Voting Rights Act. But the claim in federal court that was dismissed did not, I read it, did not make out that case, and the state case doesn't make it out. All right. Mr. Gist, what is your understanding of the status of the state case? That was also Mr. Lawverdane, who sits on the council, that filed that case as well. And I think he is now withdrawn from that representation.
But the case is still pending.
Okay.
In the Ninth Judicial District.
In the Ninth Judicial District. And right before that withdrawal, which is in the last few months, it is my understanding that Mr. Lawverdane submitted a judgment to dismiss those claims with prejudice. Is that your understanding?
That's what I've been told.
Okay. And we'll get that record as well. That's going to be important whether that's true or not. If that was to be dismissed with prejudice, wouldn't that be a salient fact for us all to know? Now, I do know that the city has a position to declare that Act 37, 2024 was in conformance with the charter and proper. So that would be in, Trey, what would be called a declaratory judgment. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so if someone went to dismiss that claim and tried to dismiss the declaratory claim on the other side, that could be objectionable, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so we'll find out what happened there. The city would maybe perhaps have an interest in having the Act 37, 2024 declared proper. Here's why, guys. It's pretty easy. You strip away that it was not about race, and you strip away that it was not about one person, one vote, and then you further strip away that the both ordinances, the one that's now being proposed and the one that existed just before, we'll call that the Felter Plan, the one that existed before, and we'll call this one the Porter-Davidson Plan that's back now. If they're both proper under the charter or neither violated, and you don't have the other sets of issues that I spent a lot of time explaining, then what is the question before us all? What type of question is it limited to? Starts with a P. A political question. So all of the other parts become a political question. By the way, some of you are looking around, political questions aren't bad things. They're made every day. It just means that it's not about some of the things that touch our heartstrings and get us pretty mad, and it becomes something that's done every day. Politics, that's what this body does and others. So that's okay. And someone can advance the Felter Plan or the Porter-Davidson Plan, and they can advance those plans for political reasons, as long as they don't violate the things that we just covered. Both plans can be advanced for political reasons. It's not the end of the world. It happens every day. The current U.S. Supreme Court, Daniel, as you know, is really stripping away and saying it's only about that. I don't go that far, guys. I think these other things matter a whole lot that I started out with, but it's about to be, perhaps, only a political decision. The important thing for me to talk about today is this one only a political battle? And I'm going to give another day tomorrow. Let's make sure of that, because we need to make sure that there's no evidence that it's anything but that. If there's a one person, one vote issue, or there is a voting rights violation, 2 opportunities to advance them in court have not happened, and other than a conclusion, anybody can take a mic and state an opinion, an ultimate opinion, but what I would say, as the kids say, is bring the receipts. That's a grand allegation requires grand evidence, right? And so we want to see facts that back up those things. All right. So I will ask again, are there questions from the council about this? I started off the first one with asking Trey a couple. Are there other questions about First of all, Voting Rights Act violations are one person, one vote. Mr. Gist,
Yes, sir.
I neglected to state that both my admonition to you and what I would remind you openly of here is you're in that unique role where you advise the city, which is your client, and ultimately the citizens, and you do it through constituent bodies, the executive and legislative branch. Not that you would, because you're a consummate professional, but just to remind you that you're under no pressure to do so here. I would ask you not to violate anything you've talked with different members about, and I would point out to the public that, not a secret, perfectly permissible for Mr. Gist to talk to two councilmen who have opposing views. Does not become a conflict for him unless he takes a side on it or advances one over the other and does something wrong. He can certainly hear both and say, well, here's this and here's that. And it might surprise some, but it shouldn't, that Mr. Gist also sometimes mediates that internally. So there could be two members that each take an adverse position and ask Mr. Gist or another lawyer at the city to go talk for them to somebody else because they may want it to be privileged. That's okay too. That's all normal business in a city. It happens all over the country every day. So, Mr. Gist, without violating anything entrusted to you, do you have an opinion on whether you've seen evidence or a factual basis for a one-person, one-vote equal protection violation by either Ordinance 129-2025, the Porter-Davidson Plan, or Ordinance 37-2024, the Felter Plan?
Both plans meet the requirements of the population and the allowable deviations.
Both plans meet the population requirements and the permissible deviations.
Yes.
So I guess, again, to say that in an easy way, the maximum percentage deviations under two tests, let's say there are both, it's okay here.
That's correct.
I heard the conclusion about a voting rights violation, and to me, that brings up a racial disparity issue. It is my understanding that the Felter Plan preserves a higher percentage of African-American voters in District 1, the Cynthia Perry District. Is that correct?
Essentially, yes, sir.
So to adopt the Porter-Davidson Plan would lessen the African-American voters in District 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Slightly.
Well, I guess I would say slightly or not, that doesn't portend a racial claim.
No, and I think in both.
Be the
plans-
opposite a little bit.
In both plans, that district would be predominantly a minority-majority district.
In both plans, the historical minority-majority districting that the city has sought to reflect the population of Alexandria is preserved, and more so in the Felter Plan than the Porter-Davidson Plan.
Yes, and we have three majority-minority districts, which we had before, and both those plans retain that configuration.
Okay, so without getting into any attorney-client stuff, Mr. Gist, my one on the spot, do you have an opinion of why the testimony in front of this body from citizens and others made the adverse claim to that?
I can't tell you that, why people have their opinions.
I asked a smart alecky question and got a smart alecky answer. I don't mean it that way. I mean, not your opinion of the politics. Did you ever come across an assertion factually that was true? And even if you could show it wasn't.
No, no one's ever told me that. And certainly no one ever showed me any facts or empirical information.
Well, you've looked at all of the documents, you've given them to me, I have everything. I didn't see it, and if I did, I would have a very strong opinion about it and a near zero tolerance, if not zero tolerance, even if it's in certain, we have to preserve what we've been doing because it's what's good for the city. Again, I think the Supreme Court may disagree with me in the next few months, and they're going to be doing some very different things that may shock people, or may not. It may be what some people are very happy about. I understand. But you didn't see any evidence of it in this whole process whatsoever.
I did not see any evidence.
There was a claim that. Oh, okay. Trey, you don't have a mic. You may have to get one. They're saying they can't hear you. I asked Mr. Gist, the public can hear the question I asked, and his response was negative to all of them. He did not hear any evidence of that. One of the more serious allegations of things I heard was that Matt Johns, Mr. Gist, what is Matt Johns' role in all of this? And I'll repeat it.
He is I'll call him the executive director.
Executive Director of the Rapides Area Planning Commission?
Mr. Johns is the main manager, executive director of the Rapides Area Planning Commission.
What we call RAPC.
RAPC.
And in this case, he was charged with coming up with the district plans for the races since the 2020 census.
The RAPC, in cooperation with council members in both cases, did so.
Okay.
In the sense that RAPC had the census tract data, and they know what the parish precincts are.
In years past, did you and others do that, or consultants, or RAPC has done it?
RAPC has done it for the last 4 cycles that I've been involved in over 40 years.
Okay.
And they would have the empirical data from the Census Bureau embedded in their demographic software. The city doesn't have that.
Okay. And Trey, because I know you know from your own aid work, like I was fortunate to do in the legislature, at the legislative level for House and Senate districts, this is a whole nother level, right? It's
Correct.
They hire consultants from all over the country, and it's a pretty big battle. Is that right?
Sure. It's
But similar aims are sought in compactness, contiguity, and all those things. They're different geographical boundaries than in a local level where it's at the precinct locality. Is that
right? And the parish sets the precincts, and the precincts in Rapides Parish were done many, many years ago.
But that's not something the city could do or change to affect anything that we're talking about.
No, that would have to be done by the Rapides Parish Police Bureau. It would have to be done by them a year or two before the census information came. That's the only way that the city can't change the parish precincts.
Right. But if you think about it, what the precincts capture as that smallest block, they're just rearranging the blocks to create a district that still has to meet one person, one vote. So it doesn't really matter if they change it, just could make it more convenient if precincts made more sense, closer to an area, et cetera, accessible, all of that.
And over time, some neighborhoods may have less population, some have grown, and some are too large. But again, the city can't make those changes. That has to be done by the police jury.
Right. And earlier, I shouldn't have stated it that way when I said you go to your precinct. I meant you go to the place where you vote. The precinct is not the place where you vote. The precinct is the geographical unit in which that place you go to is the recorder of that vote. If you're going on election day, you're going to go there. You obviously can go. If you're not going on election day, you can go ahead of time and you go to the courthouse here and vote.
Right.
And I think there's one other designated place from time to time at the
Correct.
Keys Park, and there's some other places where you're allowed to do it. Okay.
One other thing, no precinct was reconfigured in any way, was it correct?
Now, on some of these, we're going to get to that.
The city council cannot change
Oh,
precincts.
you mean in this? No.
No,
We have-
no, no.
You guys don't have any ability to do that.
Right.
I thought you were talking about splitting precincts for voting
Yeah,
purposes.
it was moved.
I got you. All right, so I don't know if you know the answer to this, Mr. Gist, but this is my understanding. I saw that it was stated by an elected official in this room that Matt Johns, this executive director, was threatened during this process. Do you recall that testimony or that comment being made?
There was a lot of stuff commented on that maybe wasn't correct
Well,
by people. Okay.
did you hear that statement made?
I think someone said
Did other
that.
people here hear that statement made?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone here have any knowledge of anybody that talked to Mr. Johns? I did not, but
I spoke with him directly after the meeting,
this is Ms. Felter. She is saying that she spoke to Mr. Johns.
and I asked him about it because that was deeply concerning to me, that if anyone
Threatened him.
threatened him and his job during this process, and he said he had no idea what that was about. And he debated whether or not he should ask to address that issue at that council meeting.
Okay, and Ms. Felter, you're going to be given, as the person affected and any other council persons, the opportunity to respond. So Ms. Felter's general comment, I know she'll have a more on that, is that she asked Mr. Johns immediately following, and he stated that has never occurred, and debated in front of her, I guess in his own mind, but out loud, whether he should address it. Mr. Ranson, did you have occasion?
I actually called him next day because I was as surprised as anybody. And basically, he told me the same thing. He told Ms. Felter.
Yeah.
He debated whether to get up, but absolutely was not true.
Okay. So I did not, in the case of Ms. Felter, I was not aware of that conversation. Either I or someone in my office, I don't remember if it was me or someone else, it wasn't Mr. Caffrey, it may have been a group of us, asked Mr. Ranson to call him because Mr. Ranson has a relationship with him from his role. I found that to be worthy of an investigation. If he had said that was true, I would consider that potentially criminal on a very high level. Would definitely terminate anybody that was under my watch, but it wouldn't likely be that since we're not in the redistricting. But if a council member, any council member, were to be involved in threatening officials about mapping and redistricting, I would have asked for there to be a full investigation. To the extent the city wouldn't have authority to do that, I would have asked powers higher than that from the Attorney General, the District Attorney, and others. And I would definitely have investigated whether it was true and made a record to give them to make sure that no one blew it off, because I would take it that seriously. I know Mr. Johns, I haven't asked him myself, but, if that's not true, again, there was a Voting Rights Act claim, and there's that. Those don't belong in something this serious. Claims like that require real evidence to make them. They don't belong in a heated enough battle of the election process. But again, we're getting to, if you remove all of that, we're at a political question, which is normal. You may not like it. Someone at home may be watching this going, that isn't fair that it's political. I just would challenge you, that's how the nation works. It's a political question to decide whether to keep this precinct here and all that. Those are decisions that are made every day, as long as they don't violate those other things we talked about. They have to be made. And what else would it be other than political? What I think people mean when they say it shouldn't be political is that it shouldn't be controlled solely by an incumbent or solely by some other part of the process where someone says, I want to knock out an incumbent because I want this person to get that job. Those are all part of the process. And you can like them at a different level, but there's no perfection in this, ladies and gentlemen. It is what it is. Ironically, the one thing that is allowed when you strip away those other violations is incumbency protection, because presumably an incumbent who's been elected by the people have spoken. So some level of incumbency protection is not only allowed by the law, it is indeed on a small level encouraged, all other things being equal and not present. All other things being equal and those things being not present that would violate the Voting Rights Act or violate one person, one vote. I see some snickering, but it doesn't change the fact that that's a true statement. And I would all challenge you to think about it. How else would you do it? There's no magic cosmic ball that would go around and do all this outside of humans, their folly, their desires, their wishes, their intent, and everything else. To think otherwise is just sort of an immature view of how things work. Or you have your own dog in the hunt. And I'm going to suggest to you that the last one is usually what's really happening and is oftentimes the case. But again, you sort of can have that in politics. You can be for a candidate and promote that candidate, either way. So again, we have a whole nother day that we're glad to take any evidence of voting rights violations, one person, one vote violation, and on any of these other subjects. Tomorrow, I hope to get through this heavier part so we can focus on the compactness, contiguity, the real basic stuff that when you get outside of this, the stuff that matters. So I'm hoping to get that out today, but certainly if someone comes with the smoking gun, we will have it. All right. So the Matt Johns thing, not true. I don't have evidence of a voting rights issue. I would personally find that to be the most important thing you could say other than just a pure one person, one vote issue. So I don't have that in front of me. I'm going to ask that any council members of interest, and so I will start with offering to Ms. Perry or Ms. Felter. Ms. Perry just being the representative of the Davidson Porter plan. It doesn't mean anything other than that. I think she may be out, but she did contact the clerk and will be given any opportunity she wishes or for anyone to speak for her or the plan and any other council member. And with that, Ms. Felter is here. Ms. Felter, would you like to address the issues?
Yes.
Would you please take the lectern? If you would, sorry.
Good evening, everybody. Mayor, thank you for opening up this opportunity to look at everything closely, to look at the controversies regarding this ordinance 129-2025. You outlined in your agenda your questions, and it explicitly asked whether this ordinance would fail to consider cultural and other common ties, and whether it would allow candidates to pick voters instead of voters electing candidates, which I think are really important questions. The answer to both questions is yes, and I'm here to put the facts into record and explain why. And throughout this, I would like you to consider, the things that I say. So, agenda item A, bullet point 4 and 5. You have preservation of precincts and community of interest. So the agenda asks if the council made genuine efforts to maintain neighborhood continuity. So the map voted to return to, the 2022 map, fails this test completely. The 2022 map sliced through our city's oldest neighborhoods, most historic and established. It fractured the Garden District. It fragmented City Park. It split South Alexandria. So when you look at those things, I mean, you mentioned that and alluded to that in some of your statements about we look at those things when we're redistricting. So the 2024 map, the map currently in place, fixed those errors. It moved whole precincts, so no split precincts, like C18, C40, to unify these neighborhoods instead of dividing them. Returning to the 2022 lines.
Ms. Felter, can I interrupt you?
Sure, go ahead.
You're speaking fast like a...
Oh, I can speak
Teach.
slower. I know, I'm used to teaching, fitting it all in a little amount of time.
So when you were talking about split precinct,
Right.
the Felter plan, does it split precincts?
There are no split precincts in the Felter plan.
Okay.
And when I say the 2024 map, that's the map I'm referring
Okay,
to.
because I defined that, I want to,
Right.
just for the record to be clear. So the
Well, say
Felter
it like
plan
that.
does not split a single precinct?
No,
Okay.
Um,
Does the Porter-Davidson plan split any precinct?
no, it does not either.
Okay, so both plans achieved a no split precinct.
Right.
That's sort of a
When
baby miracle. Okay.
working with RAPC, that was one of their objectives. When you looked at the maps and the lines drawn, to not split precincts, because that helps with voter confusion. It just helps things stay consistent. So yeah, both plans keep precincts whole. But the 2024 Felter Plan takes it a step further and not only looks at the precincts, but it looks at the neighborhoods, the communities of interest, and keeps them together instead of splitting neighborhoods. For example, this is just a sidebar. Under the map that I ran under, I had a portion of Briarwood just kind of added in, but only half of it. So it became very confusing when you split neighborhoods to know, where the lines are. So it's really
Ms.
important.
Felter, what plan did you run under either of these plans or the old pre-census?
I
original
ran under
district?
the 2017 maps is what it was called. So I
this-
didn't run under either of these, but Ms. Perry did run under the 2024 maps in her most recent election.
Ms. Perry ran under the Felter Plan.
Yes,
There's
and,
been a race under the Felter Plan.
yeah, and that is something that I'm going to get to in just a minute. I was kind of trying to go down your.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. So the 2024 map, the one in place, fixed the errors. It moved whole precincts together. It unified neighborhoods rather than dividing them. And so if we return to the 2022 map, then it's not preserving communities of interest, and it's actually dismantling them. So that's why the 2024 maps are better.
Do you know which neighborhoods would be affected?
Yeah, it would be City Park neighborhood, the Garden District neighborhood, and the South Alexandria neighborhood. So for example, in the Garden District, if you're going down Jackson Street, Albert Street, Marie, Elliott, those streets, the precinct stops halfway where Chester divides those streets. So then it would be split there, 2 council districts.
So if you're going down Albert, and I know that one because Albert Street is very community.
Yeah.
Albert Street folks are Albert Street folks.
Right.
So on Albert Street, at Chester, you would, if you're not in the Felter Plan, if you're in the Davidson Porter Plan, that becomes 2 districts.
Correct.
So
So
above Chester toward the river becomes District 1,
3.
3, I'm sorry, 3. I keep saying 1. I said, everywhere I said 1 earlier was 3, by the way. That becomes 3.
Correct.
And everything below is
4.
4.
Correct. And that's
I'm
pretty
not
much the
correct.
case in the other 3 neighborhoods, other 2 neighborhoods. So all 3 neighborhoods, it's similar. City Park, on one side of the bayou would be District 2, and the other side would be 4. Same thing.
All right.
So anyway,
A couple of misconceptions out in the public, and I did not understand this either until maybe this week fully.
okay,
When you ran and qualified, so when you qualified to run for office,
yeah,
the Davidson Porter Plan did not exist yet.
I mean, no, it was not
It was
that.
not adopted.
No, it was not adopted. It was not, I didn't even know about it at that time.
So when you qualified to run in the 2017 version where you lived in your district and qualified to run in your district.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, which I think is a super critical question, and it goes with the part of your agenda. Does this ordinance allow candidates to pick voters instead of voters electing candidates? So the history that you're just speaking of proves that it does, and we have to correct it because there's so many misconceptions about how the map was created. So on July 20th, 2022, I have the exact date so I wouldn't get them wrong, Mr. Tom Spencer and I qualified for the District 4 election based on the existing lines. So we both live in the same precinct, C18. Then, on September 6, 2022, after we had already qualified, the council adopted new maps that specifically drew us out of the district. So this idea that I qualified for an election knowing that I didn't live in the district
That's been
is
said in
false.
here.
Yeah,
That's
that's
been said.
completely false.
Can I ask you another question?
Okay.
Why are if the census occurs in 2020 and you're supposed to do a year out before the first primary election, why are you getting to qualify and there's still not maps in place?
So from my understanding, of course, I was not on the council at the time, because of COVID issues, I think some of the census data was delayed getting to the council, to the REPC or whoever. And if I'm wrong about that, Mr. Gist,
No, the U.S. Census Bureau information did not get published for about 10 months after it was supposed to.
right.
Mr. Gist says the census information was not published for as much as 10 months post when it was normal to publish it.
Right. So, and then at the time, I'm not sure why it was delayed any further by the council, but that does seem like something you would want to take care of sooner rather than later. So I can't answer those specific
But
questions.
you can answer a couple. So you didn't have anything to do with the delay?
No,
The
no,
delay
I
is
had-
not attributable to
No.
Lindsay Felter? Okay, and then? No, keep going. I'll have some more.
Okay. All right, so November 8th, that was when, of 2022, that was when the voters of District 4 elected me with 64% of the vote. So that's when I was elected. So it was after I qualified before the maps happened in between, and then I was elected. The 2022 map was designed to render the election irrelevant before a single vote was cast. So it created a legal, I guess, impossibility, where regardless of who won, the city council would be forced to look at the lines because the map excluded the very candidates the voters were choosing between. The only two people that qualified
So
lived in that
Two
district.
people running
Yeah.
were written out by that council.
Yes. So if you think about it, reverting to that map now tells 64% of District
Not a
4.
well-understood thing you're describing.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so by reverting to this other map is now telling the 64% of District 4 that their choice didn't matter, and it really is the definition of politics, of politicians picking their voters. So, to purposely remove these people. So, let's see what else. Okay, on agenda item A, bullet 7, relevant history of the aims of a plan. So your agenda invites information regarding whether there's relevant history of the aims of a particular plan and whether the disputes are political or legal. So,
Just so you know, my agenda was done by me personally, from my own research, from stone on constitutional law.
Right.
From my own past. I spoke to no one, no council, I spoke to no one in the formulation of this. I didn't speak to staff, I didn't even speak to Mr. Gist. So this is my agenda from what I think is the right order that you can take out of a table of contents from most treatises, books, et cetera, on the subject of redistricting.
Right.
Anyway.
so what I did was I looked at your agenda and I tried to think about what needed to be on the record about these things to kind of clear up misconceptions. So, one thing that I've been hesitant from the beginning of all this is to really talk about the aims of the 2022 map, the Gerber-Porter map. It was not drawn for compactness, it was not drawn for compliance, it was drawn as an act of political retaliation. Former council members Catherine Davidson, Gerber-Porter, they orchestrated these lines specifically to punish the candidates for staying neutral in mayoral and other races. And so they weaponized the redistricting process to extort political loyalty. So when I refused to play the game, they drew the precinct where both candidates, myself and Mr. Spencer, would now be out of the district,
I know this is important to you,
right?
and you are a politician.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure you could say that, because it is important if and how you learn that. But I will just carve this out to say, we're making a record of things that on the first two levels are facts. We have
Right.
no evidence of VRA, Voting Rights Act violations. We have no evidence here. This is your opinion of why, unless you have information of what you were told directly, et cetera. And if you want to put that in the record, you can. That's
Okay.
up to you. But I just want to make sure the public understands, you have a right to say what you're saying.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of other stuff said that were opinions on legal matters that we know to be
Right,
false conclusions about it.
right.
Here, this is you're saying that one of the aims was political retaliation.
Yes, in fact, the first time that I actually realized that my precinct was drawn out of the maps, I was attending a council meeting just as a citizen, and an elected official pointed to the map and said, "You see that right there?" And pointed to my precinct and said, "I hope you know why that was done."
Who said that? Who said that?
Police Juror Jay Scott.
Okay.
And then he said, "What are you going to do about it?"
That was not my guess. I didn't know that that's who said it. But I will note for the record that it was Mr. Scott who said that Matt Johns was threatened. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, there's been a lot of intimidation from that side. Okay, I'm going to move on from that, because I would rather focus on more of the factual things than the personal things anyway, because I think that's the most important. So, agenda item A, bullet 1, denying citizens the right to vote. I want to address the issue of voter disenfranchisement. So, the 2024 maps were enacted before an election was held, under the flaw 22 lines. So, the 2022 map, there has not been an election held under that map. So, but now there has been for the 2024 map. So we've held an election under those maps. So if we go back to the 2022 maps, the Gerber, Porter, Catherine Davidson maps,
Listen, I'm not trying to make you mad at me, but I'm doing this differently than,
that's fine.
y'all run the council. This is not me trying to run, I want evidence. When you say it's flawed, you mean flawed in the sense that you feel the Felter plan is a better plan.
Yes.
But we all agree that neither the Davidson-Porter plan nor the Felter plan are flawed legally. They're just two different choices. Or am I
Right.
wrong? You may disagree with that. That's fine. I just want to make sure we're clear on this record. But you feel free to disagree. I'm not saying I know that to be true. That was my understanding until just now. You used the word flawed. Why?
I use the word flaw because when your intentions are to draw the incumbent from their
Okay.
district, when you split neighborhoods, I don't think that's the best way to draw the map.
Got it.
So those were, because I did a lot of research on the process of redistricting, and if it were just to preserve the incumbency, I would have never even presented the 2024 maps. But when I saw that there was a better way, there was a better plan that would be better for the city to preserve representation, that's why I moved forward with,
You do understand that with a 64% vote, you have the right to preserve incumbency, right?
I do. But even
It might
despite
not
that.
be the only reason, but.
Right,
you
and
have
that's what
that
I'm
right.
saying. If that were the only reason, I would have just figured something else out. But since it would be better to change the maps anyway, that's why I moved forward.
And the check on your ability to preserve it is a 4-3 vote against it. That's the check and balance, right? Okay.
Okay, so this is another thing that I think can be cleared up a little better. So if we revert to the 2022 maps now that there's been an election under the 2024 maps, we're creating a 6-year lockout. And what I mean by that is the citizens who voted in 2022, who, because of this shift, will be moved into districts where they can't vote again until 2028. So for myself, my precinct, I won't be able to vote. I didn't get, hold on, it's kind of confusing. So it's stripping them of their right to vote for representative for 6 full years. So do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
don't.
Okay, so in 2022, we were under the 2007.
If I do, you need to make a record. So, go ahead.
Okay, in 2022, when I ran for District 4, we were under the 2017 maps.
Correct.
Okay, so my precinct voted then. Then in,
The precinct, when you say mine, you mean your personal.
yes, yeah.
Got it.
So the people that live in C18, C40, and there's one other one, but I can't think of off the top of my head. C18, okay. So C18, so we voted in 2022. Then for the next election in 2024, it was under the 2024 maps, which precinct C18 was still in District 4, so we didn't vote in 2024. So if we change it now, that precinct would now be in District 3, So in the 2026 election that we're going to have next year, they won't be able to vote because they're now District 3. So then they won't be able to vote until 2028 for a council person.
Mr. Gist, do you understand that?
Yes,
Do you agree that that would be the practical effect?
for the precinct 18 who voted in the election that elected Ms. Felter, they would not have another election if it reverts back to the 22 now until 26. I agree with that.
Right, that's,
28.
right, that's why I
Mr.
felt.
Gist, have you heard of that happening before?
Well, some of that deals, Mayor, with the way, see, our council.
This is also different than what's been presented.
But we have staggered elections, some.
Sure, sure.
Some of our council districts vote with at-large doing one 4-year cycle.
Right.
And another one, the other 3 vote, or 4, vote in a different cycle. And it basically, what Ms. Felter is explaining is that the unique difference with the 22 and 24 plan is that precinct 18, which is part of the Garden District, will, if we revert back to the 22 adoption, then those voting people that live in District 18 in the Garden District, they don't get to vote again for a city council until 28. That's correct.
Okay. Ms. Felter, your position is that is disenfranchisement?
Yes, because we've now held an election under those maps. So,
I think I heard someone mumble, not an opinion. Did I hear that right? Huh? Oh, I understand. Okay.
okay. So we understand that issue, which I think is the most glaring problem. Because at this point, we've had an election under new maps, and so.
We've had an election under the Felter plan.
Right.
Okay.
Under the, so if we revert back to the 2022
There's
maps.
never been an election under the Davidson Porter plan.
Correct. And that was important because you want to have the right set maps before you have an election, because then you run into this issue.
Well, the story has been you're trying to run it, you don't live in your district and you're trying to, as though that's how it started, and that's
No, that's
a
not-
misconception.
yeah.
I'm willing to go out on the record and say that's not
Right.
been the case. That's
Yeah.
not what happened.
So we've already established the 2024 maps are legal, they're compliant, they respect the one person, one vote standard, and most importantly, they respect the results of an election. So I think that needs to remain consistent. So the ordinance before you, the 2020, reverting back to the 2022 maps, I think it's a step backward.
The person you ran against, has that person registered an opinion in this?
Yes, oh, okay.
And his opinion is the same as you?
Yes, it is. In the last few days, I've had a flood of people reach out. In fact, I have over 50 constituents, residents, people in the city that have reached out and expressed.
Yes, you made them write me, so I have them here. I'll put in whatever we have, Michael. Everything will get filed into the council's records that we get. I haven't been through them yet. I read 4 or 5 of them. They're not form letters. They're all individual.
Well, and I do want to take the opportunity to say this. Sadly, many people, well, first of all, some people can't attend a council meeting or a briefing just due to life and
Sure.
their schedules. But also, I've had many people say that, honestly, they're afraid to step into this room and make their voice heard because of the fear of, what somebody's going to say, heckling, things like that. And I really think that's a shame, and I think that that is something that we need to change.
Well, that's why I
because-
wanted to host this, so that it would be a temperature down.
Right.
I don't care who wants to come, and they can put whatever they want in the record. I like the atmosphere of being able to do it in a way where it's not, where people don't feel that way.
Yeah.
It's too important.
It is important, and I'm happy, I'm open. Anyone who has reached out to me with questions, I've had many discussions about this and have tried to, it's very complex, and it's sometimes hard to navigate through the weeds and figure out what's fact and what's opinion. So I'm open to have a conversation with anyone, answer any questions that you have, anyone else has, about this. But I really think that going back to the 2022 maps would not be what's best for our city. We have so much we need to accomplish, and I'm hoping that the 2024 maps remain.
Mr. Porter, on the Porter-Davidson plan, is Gerber Porter, is that correct?
Yes,
And Gerber's a former councilman?
yes,
Is it your understanding Mr. Porter is also a plaintiff in the lawsuit over this same issue?
that is my understanding.
And do you know who the other plaintiffs are in that case? Is Tracy Snow one of those plaintiffs?
I believe so.
And Agnes Francisco?
Yes,
Ms. Snow is a former GATA member, and you replaced her on GATA?
yes.
That's been a little consternation and caused some consternation issues for you as well in this room?
Yeah, it has. But since then, Ms. Snow and I have been working together in the Garden District
Good.
neighborhood group. I appreciate how active she remains and attending meetings and helping with issues throughout the neighborhood. I'm very thankful that our relationship has actually gotten stronger
Good.
since all of that.
That's a silver lining.
Yeah.
Mr. Gist, did the city take the depositions of Mr., please don't leave, Ms. Felton.
Okay.
I don't get the chance to make you stay around. I don't get the chance to do this for the council members, so just hold 1 second, I may have some questions.
Okay.
But it's not for me, I want to make sure this record is clear. This is an important decision that ultimately I have to make. Mr. Gist, did Tracy Snow testify in a deposition in the litigation, in the state litigation? If you or Ms. McGills know that?
Yes.
Yes, she did. Did Ms. Snow get asked in that deposition whether she had any evidence as the plaintiff under oath of voting rights or other violations of law?
That's my understanding.
And what was her answer?
She didn't have any.
Okay.
To my, I'm paraphrasing that.
Okay, and that video, that deposition is available by video or transcript, right?
I assume it would be
Okay.
public.
And if it's not a public record, I'm going to make it one right now, so it is a public record. I'm going to place the transcript of it in the council record as well, and same for Gerber Porter, and I think the answers would be similar. I think he pushed back a little more and said it was all the violations and the Attorney General and all that stuff, but then couldn't name how it was. Also, that same suit, same plaintiffs were in the federal case, is that correct?
Yes,
And that claim was dismissed, so that claim is gone. Is res judicata, it's a thing decided, is that right? Maybe not, I don't know how it was dismissed, but I think it was dismissed with prejudice. Okay. And just for the record, it wouldn't matter to me if it were a real claim, I would still want to hear it. I would not care if the court wouldn't hear it, Doc and others. I would want to hear it because it would be important to me if it were a true claim. Very important. Okay, so I mean, a lot of this is very different than the narrative. You realize that? And I guess, Ms. Felter, you would realize too, in any approach for someone responsible, that a mayor would also consider the deference to give to the redistricting body, which is the legislative branch, not the executive branch, right? So if it came down to just politics, a majority vote is an important thing, right? Part of, I think, what you're asking to be considered is then those other things that are so important, which is compactness, contiguity, preservation of community interests and those things, and that's what you've been presenting.
Yes.
Um,
And I also believe that this is why we have checks and balances in place, because this, when you're taking an incumbent out of their district, it's a few people making that decision
Instead of the people.
instead of the people that elected. And I
Because
think,
the opposite's been argued by your
right,
adversaries in this
yeah.
process. Okay.
and so regardless of whether you prefer the 2022 map or the 2024 map, we've already had an election under the 2024 map. So I can't fathom why it would be better to revert back to this other map. I don't see how that's in the best interest of the voters of Alexandria.
So just to sum up some of the easy ones, when you qualified to run, you lived in your district.
Yes,
In the, what's that?
Both times.
Both times. Your district was changed by politicians after you qualified,
yes,
correct? And it is your opinion that the changes were due to politics, whether you want to call it little p or big P. It could be bad or good, but it was politics that did it, right?
yes.
Okay. So this is the question I was starting to ask earlier, and I said, never mind, go ahead. This is for you and Mr. Gist. If the charter's rule is fairly straightforward, although I see that people can disagree, took it two different ways, at least 1 year prior to the first primary election for council members following each federal census, the city council shall. Okay, so I'll say it again, at least 1 year prior to the first primary election for council members following each federal census, the city council shall, and it goes on to say, apportion in as near as possible the same amount in each district. So the state case, Trey, is on the idea that somehow that sentence means you can only do it one time as opposed to the limit that it must be done once at that time, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
And it's going on all over the country, redistricting.
Yeah,
The second time.
Yeah, generally in the law, just take my other hat on, shouldn't do this, but it's, if a state doesn't have a specific statute that says otherwise, those are all permitted, and if you, again, Doc, back to what I was saying earlier, that we're in a state of flux, you're gonna see, well, you're seeing it in Texas and elsewhere, people are redistricting, and I think that is not the case here. This is really straight up, like, I need that district, or we don't want to have that. It's happening everywhere. So that's going to be a thing I think states will take up in a different way soon. They're going to have to. Or they won't do it at all, and it'll just be a free-for-all at all times. But that would be important to me. That would be important to me. I know we're going long, but this is the hard day. We'll try to be easier tomorrow. It would be important to me. But here's my problem with it that I asked Ms. Felter to stay up here, and I'm going to ask you, Mr. Gist. I would still make that an important thing in upholding what a 4-3 vote does. But my issue is that wasn't complied with anyway. Right? I mean, did the council adopt a plan at least 1 year prior to that election that followed the census immediately?
No, the 2022
No, the 2020
wouldn't have been,
plan was adopted too late to affect the 22 election.
So
Right.
wait, the very charter provision that everybody says is fighting over whether it means once or whatever, it wasn't complied with anyway.
That-
So, right?
That's true, yes. Absolutely. One other political thing, both of the people that promoted this, she won 64%, about 64%, both of them were defeated in their next city election.
Well, Mr. Fowler, I was going to let council members say, I'll just repeat what you said. Both of the people were not supported in their own elections that promoted this. Ms. Felter won by 64%. And her opponent actually is backing up her plan today, and he has written a letter to that effect, too, as a matter of fact, two different ones. All right, so that whole charter provision becomes, I won't say moot, but if it doesn't apply, then the only last question I think I opened up with a similar one is, and would everybody agree that you, at least, you had nothing to do with that not happening?
Correct.
Those were things beyond your control. Whether
Right.
they're COVID or the council slow balling, whatever, you didn't have anything to do with it.
That's correct.
And you qualified and ran and were elected in the same district in which you qualified where you lived.
Correct.
All right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
she got 71% of the vote in precinct 18 in that election. If that's, I think it's precinct 18,
The precinct that would be split by the Davidson Porter plan and would not be upheld by the Felter plan is C18, and they voted for her 71%.
42 voters.
I didn't know that, So that's a reason for those at home who may, not get it about incumbency protection. Incumbency protection doesn't mean politicians, it can mean them preserving their own jobs. It's also driven by that. It's the people decided at 71% in C18 who they wanted, so the council's moved to split that up, certainly from the incumbent standpoint, who, if the incumbent is innocent, did no wrong, and that's really important. You can be here for your politics, Ms. Felter, but I did see a lot of stuff being heaped on you that, just from first glance, I knew to be untrue. You've made a record even clearer today. I would say the same, though, to my good friend, Ms. Perry, and others. Their motivations don't have to be evil just because they disagree.
Correct.
Their motivations can be perfectly permissible because that's their aim. I won't say that that's been everybody involved in this, though.
Right.
You and Ms. Perry are exceptional people, I know, but I won't say that everybody hasn't had some other different aim in the division that maybe this has caused, or not. Okay, so thank you so much. I don't have, any council members want to ask Ms. Felter anything? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Felter.
Thank you.
Sorry if it felt like a little bit of a cross-examination. Ms. Felter, I'll take it this is something that you produced.
Yes.
I'm going to put that, well, let me ask you, is there anything that you think is not true on it, or you would like to change or amend?
No. There was,
I didn't find it particularly overtly political anyway, but if there's something on there that you'd like to change or submit something else?
I'll make sure that this is, there
Correct.
was a slight typo. This one is the, okay, yes.
Do you
this
know
one is
what the
fine.
typo is? Oh, it's not on it? Okay.
If you look at the three districts, the three neighborhoods,
Yes.
are they three different names? It preserves the,
City Park, South Alexandria Garden District.
Yeah, okay,
Okay. I'm going to, with your permission, this is going to go into the record.
okay.
I only see one overtly opinion political statement, and that's that the map's broken, it was by design, and you name who you say did it, but that is what it is. That's a public record, their own record.
Okay.
They
and
filed a
where-
lawsuit. Okay, so this is going to go in, and then if you have something else, a statement or anything else, I want people to have the benefit of one place where they can go see all this.
Yeah, so I have, these are all the letters of support that people have sent. I've just been printing them as I go.
I'm going to do this instead of yours. They're going to,
Okay.
whatever has been sent to my office, I'll consider those are the ones I'll put in, but we'll put all of them in, and there were, I don't know,
There's about 40 to 45, there's some that have.
I haven't read them, they're going to go in. So
Yeah.
I hope people didn't say anything bad, because I'm just going to put them in the record. All right, so we did way more, and maybe that was good, than we needed for tomorrow. I'm still going to open my thing tomorrow. Tomorrow, as you can see, it was just redistricting continued, but you will see that I lopped off from tomorrow's the major legal questions and went straight into what Ms. Felter spent time on: contiguity, compactness, preservation of precincts, preservation of communities of interest. I'm going to leave that still open for tomorrow. There may be other citizens that want to come in and say why they would like District 3 better another way. I can't believe y'all let me say one over and over. Certainly know the difference as well. One has been on my mind for other reasons lately. I live in District 1. I will reach back out to Madam President and just because I think it's the polite thing to do. Some of the comments made by individual councilmen, it's, I guess, more opinion. There was one made by Mr. Johnson. What district has what plan has Mr. Johnson run under?
The 2017.
Mr. Johnson has not run under either the Felter or the Davidson Porter plan.
Correct.
Just for the record,
I don't understand his comments then.
just for the record, there's the 20, you're calling the 2017, it's the 2011.
Oh, 2011, sorry.
That's okay. I know what she means, but for those at home, 2017 is when, but it would have been 2011, the year after 2010, that census. So that's why you're hearing the numbers. It should be within a year of the census, at least if you're following the charter, which wasn't followed here anyway. And that was before either I was on board or you, Ms. Felter, would be the facts there. So I think I know Gary very well, and I think I understood what he was saying, but it would be my understanding that what he qualified for and ran would have been, he qualified for and ran in the same district he qualified for. So I'm struggling with the comment made about people asking why is I don't know, maybe I didn't understand the comment.
Because it's split
Um,
during the last election, when Perry ran, and myself.
So the comment from the media who ran for office is that it's split, but he wouldn't have been able to run in it then. He would have run when he qualified, one time. So I guess his comments were geared toward when I run again, that wouldn't be the same.
That's not what I said.
How many times has Mr. Gary Johnson run for office? Once. He qualified when versus you?
It would have been around that same time,
Right, same
within the same,
cycle,
yeah,
same election, correct?
correct.
And so the plan in place then would have been from the 2010
Yes,
biennial census, right?
correct.
Okay.
What he was getting at, Mayor, is that when Mr. Perry ran, some of those people voted for Mr. Perry, and this time they won't be able to.
Right, but that's coming forward,
Yeah.
not looking back. Right. One of the important things to do is what were the last ones and then who's qualified a new one. Mr. Johnson's statement, though, sounded as though it was on the look back part, which it couldn't be, was my point. I don't think that means anything negative or bad for Gary. I don't think he was, I just think if that's his own understanding, I would want to talk to him about that and make sure that that's clear in this record. Each of the reasons the council votes the way they do is important. These are people you have to work with, and everybody does have to work together. I hope that no matter what on this, that continues to be a good relationship, and that these issues don't affect that. I just felt like there were very strong comments about why this had to change, and when you hear all of the evidence of what occurred, it's just, there's a contrast. Anybody can see that. The comments online have been very negative and said things that just aren't factually tethered to the reality of what happened, and I hope that gets corrected. I don't know that it will, but the point of this is somewhere there will be a repository of the information. And again, welcome any other positions. You're here, given your position. Ms. Felter, do you feel like you were, yes, I was here enough for it, you gave these positions before, did you feel that you were not given the same opportunity to develop as much? Or you felt like maybe if the room is hot about it, sometimes it's not the best timing to do something?
Probably a mix of both of those things. And I put out, the opportunity to have discussions, but you can put the opportunity out there, but if the other person doesn't reciprocate that, to have the conversation and hear the things, then sometimes at a meeting, you're not able to explain things fully. If that makes sense.
It does. Somebody had asked me to ask you, so it was someone on staff, I won't out them, but someone on staff had been concerned about it, that one of the main comments that they were critical of is you had been accused of doing this behind closed doors. I think I heard that more than once, not being transparent. Did you at all times did you try first to talk to other council members before you put forth the Felter plan?
Yes, I reached out to the council members, stating my intentions. I honestly thought that it was supported at that time, gave them the information about what I wanted to do, requested meetings, gave them Mr. John's contact, so if they wanted to, have, because they hold the census data, so they would be able to look at everything, and they have some really cool software that makes it easy to see the changes.
Excuse me, Ms. Felter, just for Mr. Gist, is it perfectly permissible for all council members to call Mr. Johns?
Yes.
Was Mr. Johns concerned about that when first approached and wanted a letter saying that he could talk to everybody?
Yes.
Did you get an impression of why, or just didn't know, thought it could,
I
didn't know?
He wanted a letter from council.
He probably didn't want to get in trouble with anybody himself, thinking it would make someone upset with him.
It seemed like he wanted to make sure he was doing everything correct on his end.
I heard him make a comment, this was his first time maybe, or there were some issues he had, so.
Right. So I really was not aware at that time that there was opposition against it from council members.
So you were criticized about being non-transparent. You won 64%. You got 71 in the precinct that we're talking about. The people already spoke about your transparency. I mean, they spoke to what they wanted about you. I heard people saying you needed to go back to the community to ask them. You certainly didn't have to go back to the areas that were affected. They spoke.
They did.
But if we want to talk at the larger community of everybody involved, then you have to do that. Did you do anything differently than the Davidson Porter? They had 2 public hearings. You had 2 public hearings on yours.
Right, we followed everything to present it to the public.
And you had the same opposition, I think, in both, roughly. Same person spoke.
Right, when I started talking to more and more people in the community regarding this, it really made me realize that the people that actually live and vote in Alexandria are not the same people that are coming to this meeting and speaking and opposing it or making comments online. That doesn't reflect the reality of the people in District 4, the people in the districts that are affected. I've seen quite the opposite when I've gotten feedback from the community.
Well, I haven't limited this to only people that would be affected in 3, or any of the districts, in District 3, or any of the ones in the 3, if you will, involved. But I would just ask if people want to give me information, write us, do whatever, I'll put that in the record too. And I'm willing to ask anybody and let them state what they want to state. I do feel it's important that the record reflect facts, truth. and the more and more don't see that this is anything other than a political question, that you have to look at continuity, compactness, and communities of interest. My mind can be changed if someone presents something tomorrow, but that's what it looks like. In other words, it looks from a whole bunch of gnashing of teeth to a pretty regular issue, mundane, if you will, about it. And I'll be happy to be corrected on that if people want to bring other evidence. I think I'll close for today. I'm going to leave it open again for tomorrow. I'm going to try to make my focus tomorrow those compactness and really neighborhood level issues. If someone has evidence of a Voting Rights Act violation or has evidence of a one-person, one-vote violation, I am asking for it, and I'm telling you it will be treated with that degree of importance that it deserves, which is of the utmost importance, if either of those things exist. All right. All right, well, we'll close for today, and thank you all for attending. Ms. Felter, I would encourage you or people to be here tomorrow in case there are questions, if you can.